It was really a community center before there was the community center. We were asking people for their stories about the Fox, and what it turned out was it was their stories about growing up in Tucson as viewed through the Fox, and the Fox became the lens for the whole experience. There was one wonderful story about a guy who I met at a Lions meeting, and he said that he and his mother, his father had been deceased, and this is 1930 on April 11th, and his mother and he were too poor to go to the opening, but they came downtown to watch all the festivities and the fireworks and the dancing and all the bands and everything, and they were standing there just kind of reveling in all this craziness, and this is, you know, right in the Depression and everything else, and he looked down on the ground like small children do, you know, they're always looking down, and he saw 2 tickets that somebody had dropped on the ground, and this had been sold out for months, and so he and his mother got to go in and see the show, and it was something just way beyond what they would ever have been able to do. So Fox opened on April 11th, 1930, and closed on June 18th, 1974, and it really was the center of the community for a great deal of years, primarily from 1930 to about 1945, because it was before the war and everything else, and then things started to sprawl and change. So it really is something that, as far as a landmark, it was always the largest and the most luxurious theater in town. It was designed in 1928, and so at that time it was, you know, just before the Jazz Singer, and so, you know, vaudeville was still a going concern, and so it was designed as a vaudeville and a movie theater. What kind of tipped the scales against it was, of course, talkies made everything, you know, basically changed vaudeville forever. But the final straw that we had, the Fox had, for kind of the stage was The Robe, which I believe is 1956, and it was the first CinemaScope picture. When they did that, all of the Fox theaters all over around the country, because then it was 20th Century Fox, they put in a CinemaScope screen, and of course this is a longer kind of letterbox screen. When they did that, they had to build a permanent structure on the stage to house this screen, because they couldn't fly it in and out of the proscenium. So as soon as they did that, the stage was rendered inoperable. So you went from being a mixed-use facility to a 1,200-seat movie theater, which downtown Tucson was destined to fail. When I was an undergraduate student at the U of A in photography, I developed some sort of a kind of unhealthy curiosity and passion for Tucson's downtown, which at the time was largely composed of boarded-up historic buildings. And so I spent a lot of time going through the old hotels, the Temple of Music and Art, found a way to get into the Fox to take photographs in about 1986. And out of that trip in 1986, I fell in love with the building, and it started to have kind of a passion over me. And so then, about 10 years later, in 1996, I came back to the Fox, this time through the front door, and was really horrified by what was in the building. There had been about 42 homeless people living there. The roof had been leaking. All the exit signs had been stolen. It was really starting to, in its final slide, down the hill. So at that point, we got together, a bunch of us, and formed a nonprofit and started working towards buying the building. And about 3 years after that, we had a deal. It was in December of 1999 when we turned the power on. So it's been 6 years since we've had light in the building, and that was kind of a milestone. You know, we'd walk through a couple times before that to try and clean things up and keep doors boarded up. But really, that to me is when things started, was when we had some power in the building. And what we tried to do from the very beginning was to very slowly make progress in the building, show the community that we were doing things, that things were moving forward, things were on track, you know, and not just waiting till we had all the money in hand. You know, some of them are obvious, kind of huge milestones, like the sign and the marquee being turned back on in June 29th of 2002. That was a neat night. To have 2,500 people come downtown to see a sign turn on was pretty spectacular. And you know, then things like the unveiling of the completed entryway about a month and a half ago with that large gift that we got, the $500,000 donation. That was a big one too. And then, you know, also it's little things, like about a week ago I walked through the building and I flushed a bunch of toilets for the first time, and I mean, that's pretty amazing, you know. And then today the fire curtain is hanging in place and they're almost finished with the stage floor. I mean, that's a big deal. The scaffolding, when that came down about a month ago, and we could see the ceiling restored for the first time. So there's things like that, you know, and on one hand, it's harder for us to see the progress because we're in here. I mean, I'm through the building 3-4 times a day. When somebody comes along that hasn't been here in 5 months, their jaw just drops.
Well, we mixed up a concentrate of Golden's acrylic paints. It's got mica powders in it to match the original gold that was underneath. And as you can see, when we start painting, that the gold is tarnished over many years, so it's actually a darker green patina over it. What doing is we're reinstating the gold back to its original color.
We as an organization are very grateful to the people who have helped us, and we hope that people will be happy with what we've done. People say, what was the best thing about this whole project? And aside from finishing the building and actually saying, yeah, I did that, or we did that, I think would be the people we met along the way. And we've met people from age 8 to 80 who are our friends now. And I can't think of anything we would have done any other way in this community to meet those people and to make those friends. I really do think this is the pebble in the pond, and everything is going to start from New Year's Eve. And then we're going to start to see so much change because it silences some of the critics who say nothing is happening. It provides a wonderful venue. It's just an amazing thing on so many different levels.